In the last video, we upgraded browser.element to browser.document, which gave us control over the entire HTML body as well as the title tag. When it comes time to add multiple pages, when it's time to build a real app that has multiple URLs, there's a certain file structure that I always recommend to get started with. And so this video is going to walk you through what that structure is. So here we are. We kind of have this this counter app living in main.elm, and we have a single entry point that is linking main.js, and then main.js is importing all the CSS, all the JavaScript we want. And it's starting our Elm app, and it's registering ports and things like this. So if we just take a look at what we have on the right here, this is kind of like just like a counter page example. So let's say we wanted to have an app that has like a dashboard, and it also has like this counter, and it has like a nav bar that shares. It has links between those pages. So the way I would organize that kind of that kind of application would be I would create a pages folder where each file in the pages folder is kind of its own Elm app. So I'm just going to paste this in here for now. And I'm going to say, we'll just leave this as a port module for now. We'll say pages.dashboard. And that should be enough for this to compile, because I think it has everything it needs. So I'm going to save that. And then I'm going to just move this in here, and I'm going to rename this to counter. Pages.counter. So we can treat each individual page in our application as its own program. It could be its own separate browser document program if we want. So that's one option. And the way we would get Vite to work with this, right now we're getting an error with Vite because, oops, let me zoom in on that. And let me show you this error here. It's saying it's still looking for main.elm, and that's because it was importing main.elm here. But if we wanted to get everything working again, we would just say import that counter, and then we're back to where we were, where we have our counter app. So one option is to make it so that when a user is at localhost 5173, they see this counter page every time. So what we're kind of doing here is we are importing a single page, and then we're initializing that single page. So I'm just going to rename the variable there. So one option that you can take is you can have different HTML entry points and different basically JavaScript things that start up different apps depending on which page you're on. So an example of doing this in Vite would be I could create a new folder here, pages, and I could create a dashboard file, dashboard.js. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take all this code here, and I'm going to say this is going to go out of the pages folder. It's going to go out of the assets folder, and it's going to look in source, it's going to look in pages, and it's going to look in dashboard. And then all this other stuff is just kind of like common stuff. So what I'm going to do is pretend that I have access to a shared, so we'll go out of pages, and then we'll expect that there's a shared JS file here. Let's create that shared JS file. And the shared JS file is just going to import the common stuff across pages. And so I'm going to save that. And I'm also going to move this, registering our Prism web component that we had in a previous video. We'll add that in too. So I'm going to put this up here. So we kind of import our common CSS, import our common JavaScript. And then what we can do is we can have different URLs handle those different routes. So if we take a look at our index.html file, this was our homepage from before. What we can do is we can say, don't look for main.js, look inside of assets, inside of pages, dashboard, and then I'm going to save this as dashboard.html. And that's going to be saved right here at the root. And so if I navigate to dashboard/dashboard, what I think we're going to see is assets prism. Oh, that's right. When I move things into shared, we don't need this assets prefix anymore. So I think what we're going to see here is you go to /dashboard, Can't find the variable prism pre. I should be able to. I don't see an issue there. Oh, there we go. I didn't save the dashboard. So this is initializing our dashboard app. So whatever we do here in this program, we can maybe have an H1 that just says dashboard. So this is our dashboard. We can have a link that goes to our counter. And this is blue, so all I'm going to do is I'm just going to say that I want A tags to inherit their color. So if I clicked this, it would navigate to the /counter page, and I'm just going to rename this to counter.html. And instead of loading this main.javascript file, we can delete this. And what it's going to do is it is going to actually look for assets, pages, counter.js. And so we're going to take this. We're going to say, don't load the dashboard. Let's load the counter. And this is a way to make kind of a multi-page application. So how that works is we can have our counter have links. Let me add a link back to the dashboard. Dashboard to dashboard. So I've got my counter. I can go to the dashboard. I can go back to the counter. And you notice that flash that's happening every time. What's happening is on each request, we are completely reloading the HTML, completely reinitializing the application. And that's what would happen if you were using a multi-page app. So we have multiple entry points that are importing different files, and we're treating each Elm application as a, we're treating each page as its own Elm application. And so what's happening is we have multiple of these pages, but they can't really communicate with each other. Any way that we can like send information from the dashboard, maybe we have a sign-in page and we want to sign in a user and then have that user be available on the dashboard. To be able to like see, certain items on that dashboard. This architecture would require us to kind of persist everything to local storage so that when we refresh, it would be available, or we'd have to, send it to a database or something like that. So this is what a multi-page application would look like. What I'm going to show you instead is how I make Elm applications, and I use single-page apps here. So I'm going to make a route file. And it's going to expose a route custom type. I'm going to zoom in a little bit here. And that route is just going to describe the possible pages I could be on. So dashboard, the counter page, or maybe not found, a 404 page. And then what you do in one of these applications is you take a URL, and based on that URL, you decide what route people should be on. So if I have a URL, we're going to need to install the URL package here. Elm install elm/URL. Sorry, that got cut off there, got wrapped. That's all one line, all one command. We're going to add that in, and we're going to import URL exposing URL. I'm just going to do something simple where I'm going to say a case where the URL.path is /. We're going to go to the dashboard. If it's /counter, we're going to go to the counter. And if it's anything else, we're going to say it's not found. It's a not found page. So this is a simple route module that we can make that uses the URL's path to determine what page we want to render. And then what we would do is at the very top level, we would have our main file again. And that would expose its own main entry point. And it would look a lot like what we see for dashboard, for example. But the difference is it's going to import each of those individual pages. We've got that, we've got this, and I'm going to get rid of all of the ports and stuff. We're not going to use that. I'm not going to worry about, I guess we're going to use the initial count, the flags. We're going to pass that in to certain pages. But what we're going to be able to do is our model is going to keep track of what page we should be on. So we're going to have a custom type called page that's going to determine if, let's call this page model, I guess. If we are on the dashboard, in which case we should have pages.dashboard.model available to us. I'm going to expose everything from this file so we have access to all those types. Expose everything over here. But the high level idea is that we have these little programs and we're not going to use these to wire them up. So there's going to be no main function here. There's going to be no main function here. What we're going to do is we're going to expose the view, the subscriptions, the update, and the init for each individual page. And we're going to use a custom type to be able to say, hey, based on the current route, I want to initialize my main single page application to use this specific page. So our model is going to store either dashboard or counter, or it's going to, have like not found. For now, we'll just like show a little message like 404. And then when we initialize, this isn't going to be specific to the counter page of the dashboard. What we're going to do is we are going to figure out what the route is. And based on that route, we are going to initialize a certain page model. So what I want to do is say case, let's say the flags provides the URL for us. So we're going to say URL.fromString, and we're going to say flags.url. We're going to pass this in from JavaScript for now. And I'll show you there's an easier way a little bit later. But if we get a URL back, we're going to be able to switch and say route.fromURL on that URL. And if it's the dashboard, we want to initialize, the dashboard page. If it's the counter, route.counter. We're going to initialize the counter. And then if it's route.notfound, we're going to initialize the not found page. And then in the case where we don't have anything, we're just going to initialize that not found page again. So here we have not found is the model here. So we're going to do kind of similar stuff to this for each of these routes. But the idea is rather than hard coding not found in all these situations, we're going to say a dashboard. Here's the dashboard model. And then the way we're going to get the dashboard model is we are going to call the dashboard pages init function. So the dashboard model, the type of this is pages.dashboard.model. And so what we want to do is we want to call the init function in pages.dashboard. So I'm actually going to delete this. And if we remember, we return a tuple here. So we have a dashboard model and a dashboard command. Just like we have here with our main.init function, each page is going to return a pair. So pages.dashboard.init, we're going to pass in those flags so that it has access to any information it needs from starting up. And then that should return us a dashboard model and a dashboard command. And it's up to us to just upgrade those commands from dashboard messages to the actual message that we have here. So one thing I'm going to do before we get too far ahead is add a dashboard message variant that listens for those dashboard messages. And then I'm going to have a counter message variant, which turns pages.counter.message into our message type. And so what we'll be able to do is use that command.map function to convert a dashboard command into a full command message type that we need. So this pattern is just going to get totally repeated for every page in our app, and we can just wire it up in a single spot. So counter. So this is exactly the same. Let me minimize this so we can see it all on one page. But all we're going to do is just kind of swap out which pages we're using based on which route we have here. So I'm going to import route. I'm going to import URL. Those are imports that are missing. I'm going to expose URL. so we can use them in type annotations. And I'm also going to expose that route module that we made together. I'm going to save, and there's going to be some errors still. What I'm going to do is say that URL is a string that's going to be passed in from JavaScript. Our model is going to keep track of that page model. We've said a page can either be dashboard counter or not found. In the not found case, we don't have like a special not found page yet. So we're just going to say that it doesn't hold on to any specific model for that custom type variant. And then route.from URL, I think we need to expose that still. So I'm going to expose that here. And that's going to allow people to call the from URL function outside of the route module. So that should be happy. And now we just need to handle all these situations. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a case pattern match on the message and on the current page that we're on. So this is the technique that's really common. We're going to have, the page message, and then we're going to have dashboard, which if you remember, dashboard was this up here. It was a variant of our page model. And we're going to say if we get a dashboard message and we're on the dashboard page, we want to call the dashboard update function. So what we want to do is we want to keep the page the same. We want to keep it at the dashboard page, but we want to have the updated, the dashboard model to be updated. And then we want to do that command map again and say dashboard message for whatever the dashboard command is. That's going to come back from our update function for the dashboard page. So I'm saying dashboard an awful lot, but it's going to be really, really similar to what you saw here. Just rather than calling the init function, we're going to be calling the update function on each message that comes in. Oops, I think I hit copy twice and I lost what was in my clipboard. I'm not a clever man. So at a high level, this is kind of what we want to do when we're creating a single page application. Update doesn't take flags, but it does take a page message and it does take the current page model that we kind of pattern matched from here. So we're going to do that for the dashboard. We're also going to do this for the counter. So I'm going to do that, counter, 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 counter. And then in the event that we get, a counter message when we're on the dashboard page, we're just going to ignore that. That's going to be like, maybe we have a timer running and then we navigate to a different page. We don't care about the result of that timer. So for any other combination that's not the dashboard message on the dashboard page or the counter message on the counter page, anytime the current page is out of sync with the message we get, we're just going to ignore that and we're going to leave everything as is. So that's what this like fall through case is here. So that's that. We're going to pass in those flags. It looks like the init function is expecting, a different shape. So this is actually a good opportunity for us to move flags into its own module. So I'm also going to do that. Flags.elm, module flags, exposing flags. And we're just going to define the flags in one place. And we're going to have all of these pages import flags and expose flags so that they don't get out of sync. We define our application flags once, and then we're all set. So I'm going to do that. And then I'm going to also go into the dashboard, delete this here, delete that there, or paste that there. And we'll do the same thing here. And that'll clear up the error we got from that data type getting out of sync on our different pages. So when we save, you'll see that the flags error went away. And now what we need to do is wire up the subscriptions for each page. So it's going to be a similar situation. We're going to do a case. And depending on what page we're on, if we're on the counter and we have, the counter model, we are going to map all of the subscriptions that came from the counter page. So counter message, we are going to call pages.counter.subscriptions. We're going to pass in the counter model. So we're going to do that for counter. We're going to do that for dashboard as well. And then in the event that we're on the not found page, there are no subscriptions for not found right now. We don't have a special page for it. So what we're going to do is we're just going to say sub.none for that scenario. So do that, do this, dashboard, and then we're just going to do this, and this, dashboard. So we can do it like this. We can also use pipelines if we want. But the high level idea is that each subscription is going to look like this. And then each page is actually going to look like this too. Or each view is going to look like this too. So rather than always rendering the count, it depends what page we're on, what we want to render. So I'm going to do this. And then instead of using sub.map and calling subscriptions, we're going to call view. We're going to pass in that model. If you remember, view takes in a model and it returns a document. So we're just going to need to make a little document map function. And this is, I think, the first time that we've implemented a map function, but they're really easy to implement. So if you want to make a function that maps something from like, a page message to like a real message, what you can do is you can make your own map function like this. So these are dealing with browser.documents. So what we need to do is explain to Elm with some code how we're going to upgrade all this stuff. So how do we upgrade a string to a string, right? Because we're going to have the page document. Page document is a title is going to be a string, and we need this other title to be a string. Let me just collapse this. This is a document, right? So if I'm going from a document that's a page that uses a certain page message, and I need to upgrade it to the top level message that main is expecting, I'm going to need to only map the things that have that message variable. So string is okay, we can just forward that. But body, we're going to want to do a list.map. And then for each HTML element in that list, we can do an HTML.map, and then we can use that toMessage function and apply that to the page document. I'm just going to call that doc, the page document's body. So it's going to loop through all the HTML that gets returned from a dashboard or a counter, and it's going to use that constructor that we gave it. So on dashboard, it's going to run them all through dashboard message, and that is going to allow us to convert dashboard messages into messages using that custom type constructor, dashboard message. So we just needed to define our own document map function, but this is exactly how HTML map, list.map, this is how all these functions work under the hood. They're just running a bit of code to help turn one type into another by kind of going inside of this data structure and picking out the parts that need to be upgraded. So hopefully that makes a little bit of sense. And then what I want to do is, and then in this final branch of the view function, what we can do is we can say title equals 404, and the body can say, page not found. Maybe we'll make that an H1. And all we're doing here is we're saying, if we ever go to a page that isn't either at the root at slash, where we want our dashboard to be, or at the slash counter URL, we need to show the user something. So that was all the stuff we needed to do on the Elm side. Let me close this out. Let me bring back in our Explorer. So what we have now is we have a single entry point for our entire web application. And so what we're going to do is we're going to go back to this. I'm going to rename this. We're going to go back to index.html. And we are going to say that, let's just say assets, let's just go assets main.js. So we are going to say that there's going to be a main file over here, new file, main.js. And this is going to look a lot like what we had before, except we don't need to break it down into pages, which means we don't need to escape. We don't need to go up as many folders here. So we're just going to have that single main entry point, and then this is our single page app that we're going to initialize. So when I save that, that should work. When I delete this, hopefully we're going to be okay. I'm going to save it here, save this here, and then I'm going to go to localhost here. And what did I do wrong? I think think everything should be okay. Let's take a look, see what I messed up. It's probably an import. There can only be one port named save counter, but your program has multiple. Oh, you know what? My dashboard is defining a port for the counter page, which isn't necessary. In fact, the dashboard doesn't need any of this stuff. So we can delete all the count stuff that we had. And we can just, we'll leave the count in just so we can get this to compile. But I think that was just an issue from me defining multiple ports. And I think, oh yeah, we don't need to, we have nothing to call here anymore. Okay, oh, and this is the last thing. I forgot to pass that URL in. So in JavaScript, if we want to get the full URL, window.location, I think, what is it, href? Is that the full URL? So we want to pass this in to our Elm application through the flags so that Elm can determine what that URL is. Oops, I don't want to put it in quotes, otherwise it'll just give me that string every time. But here what you're seeing is I'm at the root, and I am able to, at the root here, I see the dashboard, and when I go to the counter, I see the counter, and as I refresh, we have everything in a single page app style, but there's one issue, which is we still have that bug from before. Oops, looks like this is going to /dashboard. The issue is that we still have that bug from before, which is when I navigate between pages, we're getting that flash. So in the next video, I'm going to introduce you to browser.application, which allows us to smoothly transition between pages without getting that flash effect. And it's going to allow us to share state between pages, all that good stuff. And we're not going to need to do any of this URL, window location, href stuff anymore. So yeah, so that's it. I'll catch you in the next video. Thanks for watching.